We are going to get started. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Okay, great. So, it is such a blessing and honor, right, to be here and to be seated next to truly Maxine. She is truly a mother, entrepreneur, a muse, a survivor, a thriver, and the author of 2 books, including I Am Who I Think I Am, Surviving 15 to 55, which is the book that we're going to be talking about largely today. It's the sequel to the book that you're looking at, I Am Who I Think I Am, When Intoxicated, right? And so let's give a hand to our fabulous panelists today, truly Maxine. Happy birthday to Maxine real quick. All right, what version are we going to sing? That was the right answer. That was the right answer. Really, that was a test, and that was the right answer. Okay, so already we off to a good start. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. I can see some of y'all are taking vocal lessons at the Alicia Keys School of Vocal Music. What made you tell all your business? Because not everybody wants to do all that. And you laid it out.
Yeah, I did. I started probably 10 years ago telling myself I'm going to write a book. People used to tell me all the time, girl, you've been through so much stuff, you should write a book. And I used to giggle and laugh in my head, like, that's just so crazy. Like, I can't tell my family business. I can't tell these stories. And, you know, one day I sat down and I said, you know what, but I can tell it to myself. Let me get it out of my head. So I started writing, you know, I got my laptop together and I pulled out, you know, the Word doc and I just started writing, you know, just dumping, data dumping, along with journaling. And so fast forward 10 years, I said, you know what, I need to release it. Like it's one thing to see it on paper, but I need to put it in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna free me. And then I had to go to my family, and I had to say, I need to tell my story. It is my right to tell it. But then to tell my story is to tell some of y'all's stories.
And see, that's what I'm talking about. You know, people can be funny, y'all, because it seems like, have y'all ever had people who will be like, oh, you know what, you've been through a lot. You need to tell your business. But then they'll be through a lot of stuff too, but they won't tell their business. So people will want you to tell your business, but they won't want to tell their business. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Or is it just me? Like, is it just me? Because some of y'all is looking at me like I'm crazy, like, no, James, that's just you. Like, or is it like, can y'all relate?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Like, did y'all say yes? Or because I don't know, like, it's me and my
Yeah.
what's coming? Oh, okay. I see you got these funeral flowers, but what? Oh, okay. Like, when you said what you said, like, you know, what was their response?
It wasn't the prettiest.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, how did they react?
Well, I mean, if I'm telling the truth, which I am.
But you truly Maxine, not no lie Maxine.
Yeah,
Truly
no.
Maxine.
Yeah, listen, and if you go get my book is back there.
Yeah, we going to talk about that too.
You know, just on the cover, or on the back cover, you know, I have to say, when I was 9 years old, I woke up and my mother was gone. Like, that's the truth. And so when I had to go to my mother, like, Mom, I gotta tell these stories. You know, and I gotta tell it from my perspective.
Eventually she came back.
Yeah, well,
like how Kelly Price came back.
Well, she didn't come back, but we understood where she was and why she left eventually. And it had everything to do with the domestic violence that she was experiencing with my dad. And the other part of that is, I had to go to my daddy. They're both still alive, but I had to go to him and say, Dad, I gotta tell this story because your and my mom's behaviors, even though you were young, and were experiencing what you were experiencing, it affected me and my siblings. And we were victims at the time. And people don't even recognize that when your parents are going through those situations, you are a victim as a kid. You're experiencing it the same as them. You might not be feeling it physically, but emotionally, and you're affected. And I've been affected all my life. Yeah, and to a point where I even got into some domestic violence situations myself. And so I tell these stories in my book. I go back when I was 9 years old, and I start from there.
So you start at 9?
Yeah.
Why 9 years old?
Well, that's the time when, like I said, my
That's
mom
when everything hit.
and that's when I have clear memories of knowing myself and what I was feeling. I was full of emotion, anger, resentment, confusion. That's when I could see myself clearly.
So, y'all remember when I said at the beginning, right, that there were 2 books. So, you know, when people write their memoirs, and I still haven't done it yet. And the reason why is because some of the things, when you go through things, it can be incredibly hard as an author to recount trauma. One of the things that I respect about Maxine, and I didn't get a chance to tell you this, is that when we were in the green room, largely because I was trying to get my hands on some of that cake that was a few feet away, was because when you write about trauma, it is incredibly hard. You know, I tell other people's stories, and I want to let y'all know that as a journalist, it is infinitely easier to tell other people's stories than it is to tell your own. The reason for that is because once you pen that story, you can publish it and then that's it, okay? But once you are telling your story, the difference is you have to still live with that over and over again. And every time you tell a story about or relive that trauma, you have to go through it over and over again and relive issues that you're still trying to heal from and bury and dig up and bury and dig up and bury. It takes an incredibly strong person to do so. Maxine did that. Not just, truly Maxine did that. Not just for one book, but for 2 books, y'all. We have to clap it up for that. I want to hear it. So, Maxine, I ask you, why 2 books? Why the sequel? Can you talk about what made you make that decision?
Yes. So when I came to Tamika Newhouse, who is our host for this Black Writers Weekend, we sat down and I had pages and pages and pages of story, raw. And her team sat me down and helped me outline that story. And it was so much, right? It was so much. She's like, wow, maybe you should think about breaking it up and making it a series. And that's why you see I Am Who I Think I Am When Intoxicated, which somewhat, you know, is a dump of my life as a whole. And then when I came back to do the second part, I went into more detail about some of those situations that when you read the first book, you're gonna be thinking like, oh, what happened with this? What happened with that? You're gonna see some of that in the second book. And so as a businesswoman going into publishing, she said, listen, this is a business. Now, you came to me and said, hey, this is therapy, right? Self-therapy, so it's great to put your book out and tell your story to help somebody. But you can really build on this. And so that's kind of where we went with those multiple books. But I had to go dark. I need to speak on that. I had to go dark, really dark. And I started this in 2021 where I really went deep in writing the first one. Probably 6 months. Where I just was writing and then we were editing and I was writing and we were editing. But my home life was very quiet. I had to get quiet. I had to go in alone. I had to take time away from my children, time away from my relationship. I had to really, because it takes you to a dark place to relive those situations. And it wasn't pretty. And I released that first book, and I did all my book tours, I did everything, and I'm like, woo, I'm free. And then I'm like, oh man, I gotta go back. And again, I had to go dark. And when I say dark, y'all, I'm really speaking not going to family events, not hanging out, not doing things that brought me joy, because it's hard for me to live in that past trauma and then be excited, and then the past, it just is what's the word? I morphed into this.
Kind of like,
I had to go back.
yeah.
I had to go
it's
back.
almost like dealing with that all over again, kind of reliving it.
Yeah.
Would you say that I am who I think I am? Both books are the first step or steps in a series of steps that you've taken to break those generational curses that you've been speaking of and that you've lived throughout.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these are my legacy. These books will live in the world forever. I have a grandson, he will read these stories. My generations to come will read these stories. So yeah, I'm breaking cycles. We gotta tell our stories. We gotta stop being afraid of those secrets. Don't tell secrets. We gotta tell these stories because we definitely gonna help somebody else.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to ask you things.
Yes.
Okay? Now look. All right. One more question.
Yes.
As Black people traditionally, we are known for keeping secrets.
Yes.
There's the old saying, what's done in this house stays in this house. It still rings true. Were there things that you knowingly kept out of these incredible projects for fear of hurting others who are still in your life?
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
just
You feel like sharing any of
well,
the secrets with me?
no.
You sure?
Listen, I shared a lot.
Oh, okay.
I shared a lot. Please get my book. I really did share a lot. But just know that when you're writing, you can't tell every detail. You know what I mean? Or you can't tell every, the team helped me to pretty up the book. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah. But,
Yeah, you got some good PR.
my people,
Yeah.
I love
You
you.
got some good PR training, I can see.
Yeah.
Because you handled that question like a pro.
All right.
Mhm.
I'm not
Everybody, let's clap it up for Truly Maxine. So we do have some announcements about her second book, the one that we've been referencing, and I'm gonna let Maxine take it away about sales and the availability of that book. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Maxine.
So I have the first one over on the table. You guys can pick that one up. The second one is scheduled to be released on Amazon October 1st. I think it's on there now, pre-order, so you can go look for it on Amazon. And I'm going to be setting up some book tours and across the country. And I'm just excited. Again, I freed myself. So if you are a writer, write, tell your stories. Put them out in the world. Go speak about it. Testify. Talk amongst yourself, even in your family. Do it. It will pay off. I promise.
All right, y'all, and then Maxine, please let them know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so I'm on all platforms. I'm mostly on IG, The Real Truly Maxine, or at The Real Truly Maxine, Facebook Truly Maxine, X Truly Maxine. So I'm out there.
All right.
Yes.
And you all, once again, my name is James R. Sanders. I am available on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and the artist formerly known as Twitter, X, all at James R. Sanders, all one word. And let's give a big round of applause to our wonderful creator, Tamika Jamison.
Yes.
We'd also like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our amazing sponsors and partners, Ike Ocean, Amazon KDP, All American Vote, and Riverside Epic Center. Your support makes this event possible. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Black Writers Weekend and share your experience using the hashtag Black Writers Weekend. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your weekend. But one more thing before you go. If you are interested, any writers in the audience, in info about book proposals, sponsorship decks, any of that info, contacts on editors, come see me. I've prepared an email that I'm more than happy to forward you all. I have one more panel that I'm doing with another author, I believe after this, if he shows up. And I am happy to forward that info to you via email, but I also have flash drives that I am giving away for your charge. Each one, teach one. Thank you all so much for being here. Be blessed.
Listen.